Good morning. Today we're going to take a look at the Spring 2018 Radiant Learning data. I'm going to give you an overview and we're going to just briefly review how to read the reports. But if you have any specific questions on the reports, please feel free to give me an email. We're also going to talk about ESSA, give you an overview of that new law, which is really NCLB revisited. Now, if you'll remember, in the fall I gave you a sheet of all the acronyms for all the parts of the Radiant Learning reports. I've shared that with you already so you can see that for reference. What you want to remember first about the Radiant Learning data is from fall to spring, we consider 2017-18 baseline data. Now we know how we perform for the first year. Now moving forward, we can take that data and we can really get down and give some more specific goals. What those goals are going to look like, we're going to give you more information in the fall. First, let's look at the reports. Again, ELA math and social studies teachers got the teacher level reports. Everyone else got the all students report, so we all know how our students did. And again, if you need to reference that acronym handout, know that that was shared with you at the beginning of the year. I do have fall all student reports, just like you got the spring all student reports. I didn't have them in the fall, so I asked for them and they got them to me. So if you want a copy, please feel free to email me and I will send you a copy of the fall all student report. So again, these are the screenshots from the beginning of the year. The teacher all-student reports have different components. You'll have an answer section on the teacher and the all-student report. The all-student report will not have this section, however. But when you talk about the answers, they talk about the percent correct, first wrong, second wrong, third wrong, etc. What they do is they take this data and then turn it into graphical form for you at the bottom using all these nice colors. Somewhere on the form you'll have the overall score and then the sub-scores. And if you want to look at the ranges of those, remember those are on the acronym handout that I shared with you at the beginning of the year. Again, if you're looking at math, you're going to see percent correct. You're going to see the number of questions. Really look at the percent correct that they're getting right and wrong here, just so you can identify specific areas of need, especially for next year. Same thing with the reading analysis. Look at each sub area, look at each specific area down here and take a look at the percent correct. Identify targeted areas where students need more support. Remember, when we're using the data in our PLCs, you can identify areas of strength and weakness. What we are really looking for, however, is growth. Areas of strength where they're growing well, and then areas of weakness where we may need to foster a little more growth by changing some practices in the classroom. What we're encouraging staff to do is make tentative goals right now and plans for changes for next year based on that ISO framework that I shared with you at the beginning of the year. Remember, the ISO framework, or instruction, curriculum, environment, and learner, that's the order that you should be looking at when you're looking at changes in order to get growth. If you want growth, you can't do more of what you're doing now. You need to change something to get better growth. So again, we look first at the instruction, then the curriculum, then the environment, and last but not least, we look at the learner. We don't go directly to the learner and say, oh, there's something wrong with that child. No, we first look at instruction, then curriculum, then environment. So here's where you want to look at changes that could increase your growth in those targeted areas that you're identifying on the reports. Now I want to show you the overall data, but first I want to remind you that there are College Board benchmarks for career and college readiness. Here they are for the SAT for grade 11, and this is another, actually before, or the practice SAT, grade 11, right here, 10, 9, and 8. There are also ISB performance levels, which, as we found out at the beginning of the year, to get a meet standards is a 540, and then if you'll remember, college and career ready according to College Board is a 480 and a 530. So ISB set their benchmark for meeting for both tests at a 540, which is higher than what College Board deems as college ready. So I wanted to show you both because even though we might not be hitting ISB performance levels, we could be actually preparing students for college and career readiness. So here's reading and writing. So if you'll look, we had some moderate gains here at 9th grade. Again, went down in terms of College Board. In fact, let me back up and explain that to you for a second. The blues here are those College Board benchmarks, how students did from fall to spring. And then the greens are the ISB meets and exceeds. So again, these greens are fall and spring. So again, comparing these side by side a little bit. So if you look right here at the college boards, so we went up moderately from ninth grade in both areas. Went down a little bit in the college board, but kind of held even on the ISB benchmarks. But 11th grade, we saw some nice increases. For math, again, ninth grade, we have to figure out what's going on here with this because we decreased in both the college board benchmarks and the ISB meets and exceeds benchmarks. 10th grade, college board, a little less, but we did see an increase in the ISB benchmarks. 11th grade, again, some very good growth. So that's it for the Radiant Learning data. And again, there's causes for celebration in that data. I think there's a lot of good cause for celebration in that data. And again, we're looking to use that data and just help students improve using the targeted areas that we see on our reports that need work. I want to switch gears to ESSA. Now, ESSA, what is ESSA? ESSA stands for Every Student Succeed Act. It is a federal law, and it is the reauthorization of NCLB, which we all know and love, which was the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. So this law, ESSA, does change some things, and the reason we're telling you about this is this changes accountability measures for schools. So we're going to get rated according to ESSA this summer, so we wanted you to have a heads up as to what this was, what went into this rating that we're going to get, and how is it going to affect how you do your job. So, like I say here, it's more of an emphasis on growth versus achievement. Now, it's more on growth at certain grade levels, which we'll find out, but overall, if you look at ESSA as a whole, we want emphasis on growth rather than static achievement. How did students do on one day, on one test? It does change accountability measures for schools. There's a lot of different factors now that go into accountability. But I think overall it's a shift from punitive measures to more supportive measures for schools that aren't meeting the growth expectations, that aren't getting the ratings that they should. Illinois has formed a support network of schools called Illinois Empower. They are the schools that get either one of the top 2 ratings you can get, and then they can provide professional development. They can provide support services to schools that are not or that don't have the rating that they should. So again, schools will be rated based on growth. And the first rating, like I said, we're going to get rated this summer. And that school portion that I just mentioned is important. It's ratings of schools rather than overall summative district ratings. So you rate schools that may or may not need support. And again, when they talk about support, they talk about getting support from those Illinois Empower services. These ratings occur once every 3 years, but if a school does show adequate growth before those 3 years are up, then they will no longer be considered to need those services. Part of the ratings, which you're going to see in a second, involve subgroups, which we're familiar with under NCLB. Just so you know, 20 students is a subgroup, and these subgroups are all main ethnic groups, economically disadvantaged students or low-income students, students with disabilities, and interestingly enough, students formerly with disabilities, and ELs and former EL students. Now these ratings that I'm about to show you, 75% of this rating are academic indicators and 25% of the rating are school success and school quality indicators. So let's show you the overall ratings first, and then we're going to get into those indicators. So here are the summative designations that schools could have that we're getting this summer. So you can get a Tier 1 exemplary school. If you notice, it's a school that has no underperforming subgroups and a graduation rate of greater than 67%, whose performance is in the top 10% of schools statewide. Okay. So Tier 2, though, you're still commendable. It's a school that has no subgroups performing at or below the level of the all students group in the lowest 5% of Title I schools. So you're not rated against all schools. They look at the Title I schools, which are schools that get federal dollars to serve their lowest serving children because of a high poverty rate usually. So you're being compared to those lowest 5% rather than the lowest percent of all schools in Illinois. They have to have a graduation rate greater than 67. Performance is not in the top 10%. So then Tier 3 and Tier 4, obviously you have one or more subgroup that's not performing and at or below the level of the all students group in the lowest 5% of Title I schools. Same for Tier 4. So, or Tier 4 have a graduation rate of 67% or less. Okay. So those are the 4 big overall designations that schools could get. Now here's the academic indicators. These again are 75% of that rating. So since we're looking at high school, if you notice we've got 2 years on this chart, 2018, 2019, 2019 and 2020. So look at high school. Now the unique thing about high school is they don't have growth as a factor. If you look at pre-K through 8, they do. High school doesn't. So you guys kind of lucked out on that one. High school, next year, ELA proficiency and math proficiency on your SATs will count for 10% of your score. You have to have a graduation rate of 50% or higher. And then English learner proficiency, 5% growth to target. Science doesn't count next year, but counts in 2019, 2020. Okay. So again, if you notice, to accommodate that 5%, your ELA and math proficiency went down a little bit. So those are the academic indicators. If you're looking at student success and school quality, then again, look at high school. They're pretty much almost all the same, except you guys have that 9th grade on track, college and career readiness. Now, college and career readiness, that's a specific, there's specific things you have to do to be considered college and career ready, and we're going to talk more about that later. But you also have the 9th grade on track. Now, if you notice in 2020, your chronic absenteeism, then you get a range because this fine arts indicator is going to come into play here. Okay. All right. So that's really the overview of ESSA. Again, this is 25% of the overall summative rating. This is 75%, and it goes into this. So we just wanted to give you a heads up over ESSA, or heads up about ESSA and what was coming down the line in terms of accountability and how ESSA was different from NCLB. Again, if you have any questions about the Radiant Learning Data or the ESSA overview, please feel free to shoot me an email, and have a great day.